Welcome to Real Talk for Real Life, where we're realizing everyone is always learning and living your full experience. I'm your host, Coach C, and this is Season 4, Episode 1, Focusing on that Fault. Today's conversation is for the person who's become an expert at replaying one mistake, one failure, one bad decision, one flaw, one chapter. And somewhere along the way, that one thing became the headline of your entire life. You've heard me say it before. What we focus on, we energize. What we continue to feed, we give permission to grow. What we repeatedly rehearse eventually takes center stage. So if all you ever replay is your failure, don't be surprised when failure becomes the loudest voice in your life. Then we sit back wondering why we're stuck, why we can't move forward, why our confidence is gone, why we can't see possibility anymore. Because we've been watering weeds while praying for flowers. Here's another truth. That sob story is sabotaging your success story. Now, hear me clearly. I'm not minimizing anyone's monumental moments. Some of you have survived things no one should have had to endure, including myself. Some of you come from family dysfunction, including myself. Some of you know abuse, abandonment, addiction, poverty, neglect, broken relationships, generational cycles. Those experiences are real. Ask me how I know. They matter, they leave scars, but here's where we have to make a decision. Will the scar become your identity or your evidence that you survived? Because there comes a point where your story stops being an explanation and starts becoming an excuse. And those are two very different things. Most of what we continue carrying has quietly become our so what story. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying so what because it didn't matter. I'm saying so what now what? Yes, it happened. So what are you going to build now? Yes, they left. So what are you going to become now? Yes, you failed. So what lesson are you carrying forward? Because your history may explain you, but it doesn't have to imprison you. Your bloodline may have introduced the cycle, but it doesn't have to define your finish line. You have to decide whether you believe you deserve to break the cycle. Because if you don't believe you're worthy of something different, you'll unconsciously keep returning to what's familiar. Here's another perspective. Sometimes the thing that looks enormous is only enormous because you spent years standing too close to it. You know the story of Goliath. Everybody saw a giant. David saw an opportunity. The giant never changed sides. The perspective changed. The soldiers focused on how impossible Goliath was. David focused on how faithful God had already been. While everyone else was measuring the giant, David was remembering the lion, remembering the bear, remembering every victory that proved God had never abandoned him before. See, what you focus on determines how you fight. If all you see is the obstacle, you'll retreat. If you remember God's faithfulness, you'll move anyway. Maybe your Goliath isn't a person. Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's debt. Maybe it's divorce. Maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's your childhood. Maybe it's that one decision you've been dragging behind you for years. Whatever it is, stop giving it a microphone. You've been making one chapter the title of the entire book, and that's simply not true. Growth begins the moment you stop magnifying what went wrong and start stewarding what still works. You still have breath. You still have purpose. You still have gifts. You still have wisdom. You still have another opportunity to choose differently. Don't spend so much time staring at what broke you, missing everything God is still building. Because the enemy doesn't always have to destroy your purpose. Sometimes all he has to do is convince you to keep staring at your fault. And if you're busy looking at your fault, you'll never notice your future. Remember this, your greatest focus should never be your greatest failure. It should always be God's greatest faithfulness. That's your real talk for today. Keep learning, keep living, and above all else, keep moving forward. Here's your fearless homework. Write down that one fault, failure, or life event you've allowed to define you. Under it, write, so what? Now what? List 5 strengths, victories, or blessings God has already given you that you've overlooked because you've been staring at that one fault. This week, every time that old story resurfaces, replace it with one piece of evidence that God has already carried you through something before. And each day by asking yourself, what did I focus on today? And is it producing the life I'm praying for? Because what you focus on, you'll fuel. Make sure you're feeding your future instead of fertilizing your fear. This is real talk, where we're realizing everyone is always learning and living your full experience. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and Facebook at Real Talk for Real Life. That's L.Y.F.E. for more inspiration, merchandise, and motivation between episodes. This is Coach C. I'll see you in the next one.